Hi everyone. Thanks for joining to some of those early people. We'll just give it a minute or two before we start. And let me just start by sharing my screen as well and getting them ready on the right side. Just give me 1 second. That should be coming through now. This session will be recorded as well, by the way. I'm sure everyone has their trusty pens ready to go. But yeah, we'll send the recording out to everyone afterwards. I will say for those that are a little bit early as well, just so you know, there is a chat box function there. So we have a few of our team also on this call. So feel free to pop any questions in the chat, and we'll come to them either at the end or potentially even during if it's very, very relevant. Nice cup of coffee to get me ready for the next talking for the next half an hour or so. I will try and give you some time back as well, just so you know that we're a meeting practice company. So got to make sure we're not going to run over of time. So ideally, we give everyone some time back in their day as well. How are we doing that for time? Right, we are bang on. So I think we should probably get into it. There's a lot of people. I saw some people here already a little bit early just before I joined, so we won't keep everyone waiting. So I think we might as well jump in and get started. So thank you everyone for joining this session. Essentially, the purpose of this call today is to do a bit of a deep dive in AI for higher education. We have got quite a packed out agenda, but as I said, we'll try and make sure we finish up and give everyone some time. And look, we'll try and get as many questions as we can answered on the session as well. So just two points from me to get us started, and then we'll look at a bit of an agenda. So first thing is just to let you know that this session is being recorded, and everyone will get sent this after the call. We can also put it so the recording's open, so other people in your organisation can view it, watch it, share it as well. So we'll get that over to you once the session's done. We're also going to compile a lot of references. We're going to be talking through some links and some studies and some work done by other education organisations. So we'll get that all sent out to you after this call. And the other thing there is just in terms of the questions, it's myself running the session today. So you'll be seeing a lot of my face, and I look after the UK side for decisions. But I've also got a couple of members of our marketing team and also a member of our account management team as well. So Jose can maybe get some of the limelight towards the end of the call and ask some of the questions if we have time to do so. So first off, a bit of an agenda. So we have a few different things we're going to be covering. Essentially, we want to give some value to you to join in the session and cover off a lot of what other people are doing in the market and share some insights from our experience and other experiences from organisations. So first of all, it's the state of AI in 2024. So we'll be diving into some of the numbers and some of the statistics. Next up, we'll be looking for some of the data and security considerations when selecting AI. After that, we'll be going into how to identify those tools. And then finally, how decisions can simplify higher education meetings and governance. So that's what we're going to be covering in the session. We will have a quick snapshot look at decisions and how we do AI as well during the session. But we'll be covering lots of different things as we go through. So the first thing to cover off is just to sort of call it out that your team and probably many people on this call are already using several third-party AI tools. So as I said, we're going to send you all of these data points and send you all of these for your individual business cases, probably some of your own research. I'm sure some people in this call are looking to put in policies and things of that nature. So a lot of this information is going to be very, very helpful. But if you look here, we can see in the last 10 months, it's not even the last year, in the last 10 months, we can see a real growth of usage of AI in organizations. What we normally see is that it's often when it comes to AI, it's a lot of people looking at it individually, right? They may be using it for their work, right? They may be uploading, I don't know, for example, Excel documents to ChatGPT. They may be downloading different tools to be using in their day to day. But often what we see is that end users are typically the people who are deciding which AI tools to use and are using it themselves. So there are some risks around that. There are some things to consider about that. I think that there has to be real deep evaluation processes really when looking at AI tools. And we're going to touch on some of the best ways to do that in a second. But look, on this call, we're not saying AI is bad, right? We're definitely going to be talking into some of the things to be cautious about and some of the things to consider. I think we can see here on the right, some work done by HubSpot tells us that the average employee could save 2.5 hours a day using AI tools. But I think there's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of things to consider. And I think we should definitely be evaluating and thinking about these tools before jumping in with both feet forwards. I think that what we should probably start looking at is some of the different things which other universities, other colleges, other education organizations are starting to do when it comes to evaluating AI, and also putting in policies in place, and also sort of trying to manage how that looks in organizations. So here we have a snap from Yale's act that they've recently launched. It's essentially a policy that they've put into place. And this is an example of what organizations in education can start doing to sort of make sure they control and can manage AI within organizations. So if we read here, they're sort of letting all of their staff know, and letting, I think, students know as well, that certain tools are retaining information which are then used to basically upskill and develop their own tools. Right. So what we mean by that plainly is, if you look at a tool like ChatGPT, for example, or in this case, Otter AI, Read AI, there's many different AI functions that do the same thing. If you put information into those tools, what they do is they store that information and then they use it to train itself. Okay. So this is both good and bad, right? Good because the tool's going to be getting better. It's going to be learning all the time. It's going to be improving, day by day. But then on the flip side of that, you have got to be careful, because there's a few things to consider in terms of the storage, where the data goes, how the data is learned from, and particularly what data it is, which is considered. Now, I would say here that this isn't all tools, right? There are definitely some different tools out there that have different ways that they manage data, different ways that they process data. So it's not every tool that has these sort of considerations and things you should be cautious of. But the main message here is, as a business and as an organization and as a healthcare education system, we should probably be thinking about how do we make sure we're careful and controlling the tools which are being used within inside the business. So that's from Yale, as I said. We can send you this so you can go through it and have a look. But yeah, definitely some important call outs on there. But we won't touch on this one too far, but I think that education has a lot of data, has a lot of customer data, has a lot of student data, has a lot of different data pools that they have, so it can be targeted really. So I think, look, we won't go into it in too much detail. It's more so just to understand that there are some sort of risks around storage and things like that. But we're definitely not saying AI is bad, right? We're definitely saying that AI is a tool which is very, very useful. But I think when looking at the market and looking at different tools, you should always be looking at the use case and how good it is for the business and how much time it saves or how useful it is. But then the second thing should always be, does it fit our GDPR compliance? Are they ISO certified? Are they having data flows that our IT team or tech team agree with, and all things of that nature. So just to share some information here from MIT. I know some of these references we're giving here are from the US side. I feel like, the US side, they have got a few tighter regulations in terms of AI. I think they've definitely jumped into AI in terms of the education side from what we're seeing. So we are using some examples here, but I'm sure a lot of the education systems in the UK are starting to look at some of these tools as well. Just from speaking to a lot of people in education in the UK, a lot of people are saying that, we want to start using AI. We're conscious of it, but they're not really too sure where. Whereas I think some of the US companies are already sort of starting to put those policies in place and give some recommendations. I think, look, to piggyback off some of the hard work that MIT's done. Also, look, as I said, I'll send you this as well so you can have it. But there are some strategies in reducing the risk, right? So I think some of the things that you can pick out of this big article they've done a full breakdown into AI and how to use it and how not to use it. But some of the recommendations would be, firstly, to move quickly to mature and responsible AI programs. So actually understanding what ones are being used, what ones are happy with, and which ones they should be using. To do that, you have to fully evaluate that. So evaluating across the board, how do they meet the requirements from the business, and understanding what's out there, right? There are a lot of tools being created in terms of AI. I'm sure people see on LinkedIn there's lots of different tools on a daily basis which pop up, and a lot of tools now have AI elements. So it's really understanding what is out there, what are the best things for your organization to start using, and what are the ones that are going to help your school or help your college and help your university the most. The next is to take action to prepare for emerging regulations. So, I have seen, of course, in decisions we're a global company. I've seen in some other regions there's much tighter regulations that have come in, specifically in the German region, for example. There's a lot more regulations which have been launched in the last year or so, which maybe some countries haven't followed suit in. There's not any that we're here going to talk to you about today that are on the horizon that we're aware about. But I think with regulations around new technology and things like that, it's always important to know when they're going to come out and what they're going to be before it gets slapped across your desk. So just make sure you're well prepared on some of the regulations that will likely come out in the future around AI and its use. I think the next one is, look, if you do want to make sure that anything's adopted across a business, it's to utilize the leadership team. If you say, hey, look, this is a tool that we're not happy with anymore, and we're going to blacklist this from a company, you need to make sure that the leadership are brought into that. There's informational campaigns about that, and the same thing for whitelisting tools. If you're saying this tool is fantastic, we're definitely going to use this. This is one that's going to be here to stay. Everyone needs to know that. And if you catch people doing old processes or using different tools, you can say, hey, we've got the blueprint. We're going to be using X, Y, Z. This is the way forward. And it really helps with that adoption in the business, with looking at those tools and utilizing those new tools. And the final one is just about committing. It's about doubling down on AI. I think it reminds me of sort of when the internet came about, many moons ago. A lot of people are saying, oh, we're not sure how useful it's going to be and who's going to use it. AI is going to be a similar thing. It's going to be a big part of the next few years. And I think it's about getting ahead of the curve and doubling down and investing in AI to make sure that your organization stays at the forefront of that growth and development. So now some things to consider as organizations when looking at AI tools. So there's quite a few different things that you should be thinking about. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is always functionality, right? It is, wow, this tool does X, Y, Z, right? This can, save me X amount of hours or do my work for me. But there's obviously some other things that as a business we need to be looking at and need to be thinking about before sort of diving into those apps. And I think it's about looking at it as an organization and sitting down as teams, leadership teams, and sort of reviewing what is the best thing that we should be doing, and then really mapping it out, as opposed to maybe sometimes individuals making their own decision on using tools. So to look at a big one which comes up, and we sort of alluded to this a little bit earlier, storage is a really key one for people looking to start using AI. There are some good organizations out there, for example, Microsoft, from what I gather, some of Google's tools that they have, and companies that are partnering with them can piggyback on some of the good security that they have. Us, for example, we work within Microsoft's ecosystem, and we use their AI protocols. And what that means is, on Microsoft side, they don't actually learn from your data, and they don't store from it to ever be able to learn from it, and that makes it better for you. So I think the first thing you should probably be looking at is what's happening with everything that's been run through that AI platform. Where's it going to? And then also from there, what's it doing with that data? as I said, there are some tools, for example, like ChatGPT and a few others, which are actively learning from it and taking that data in and storing it and using it in that way. And I think, some people will be fine with that, some people not. So I think it's just about understanding that before before starting to use them. I think I've seen some companies, even you can opt in or opt out. I think that's not a bad method, because then you can sort of decide, is that something you want to use for your, for the app and the platform and the software to get better, or not, basically. Covering a lot of ground, so we'll keep moving. The next one then is access control. So what I mean by access control is, IT teams, to be able to make sure apps are going to be used in the right way, you want them to be able to control the use of some of these tools. So again, piggybacking off some large organizations that have really good structure and security in place can be a bit of a bonus. So for example, we work closely with Microsoft, and all the permissions have to be approved by Microsoft admins. Looking at the standard features and the AI features is how we operate. But other organizations are looking to do similar things. I think if it's something that software that just goes onto your system and it stays on your system, you have, of course, got to be careful with how it's used, and is that app approved and is it not approved. So I think having a centralized place to manage those tools is definitely something you should be looking at when evaluating apps in the market and evaluating tools in the market. Is it something you can actually control or not, essentially? I'll also send all these slides out, as I said, so some people are maybe taking some notes as you go through. You'll have all these slides sent out to you to read through and to review. Okay. So look, I think the final one in terms of some of the things to look at is to look for providers who put security first. I think if you're looking at where data is being processed, I was on a call literally just a few minutes ago with a big public limited company in the UK, and they were basically saying to us, if the AI is processed in the US, for example, then it's a straight up no for us. And the reason why that is to be GDPR compliant, your data has to be processed within European data centers by those AI tools. So that's an example of one of the things you have to look out for to make sure you're keeping with your compliance regulations. A second one, which is always good to look out for organizations that you're going to be working with and vendors you're going to be selecting and AI tools you're looking to use, is those ISO certifications. Just make sure that those organizations are putting your data, your security, and everything like that first, right? That should be one of the first things at forefront when looking at people that you're going to start using. Are they compliant? Are they safe to use? And is your data where you want it to be? And I think, look, I know we're talking a lot about data and security on this call. And the reason why I think is, look, AI is amazing, right? The tools and the usability and everything that it can do is fantastic. And that we're massive advocates for it. I'll show you in a second in terms of what we do and how we help for AI. But at the same time, you have got to be careful for those companies that you're working with, right? Because you want to make sure that, especially in education, right, with all the sort of student data and things like that, that is the first thing you look for before then looking for functionality in the businesses that you work with. So looking into meetings then. So I think within higher education, if you're looking at AI and where should we be looking at using AI, often people are saying a similar thing to me, and I think I mentioned it earlier. But it often goes along the lines of, I know that we should be using AI, or we're thinking about using it in some areas, or the board or our CEO or some people in the business are really suggesting that we start using it, or we've heard of Copilot, and all these things are quite similar stories we hear a lot of the time. But people are not always sure where should we start, right? Where would be the best place to look at? And I think for education, you should be probably looking at where is the best return on investment of your time, right? So have a think, where are you spending the most time that you feel systems or solutions could potentially help you? I think in terms of where we fall into it, so we sit within the meeting space. So there are quite a few different tools that we can help with in terms of the meeting space. But the reason why we feel like it's a good avenue to look at in terms of AI is simply because of how meeting heavy our lives are becoming. I think if we're honest, sometimes it's a bit of a badge of honor to say, we're really busy, and the average person spends roughly about 23 hours a week in meetings in this day and age. I was speaking to somebody in IT leadership in education earlier this week, and they were telling me they were spending 45 hours a week in meetings. I was thinking that did sound like quite a lot, but I'm sure there's some people on the call that have had those back-to-back days, or maybe even have a back-to-back day today, and finding those little pockets of time before to create your agendas, circulate your documentation, make a PowerPoint, or maybe on the call to take accurate notes or actions and things of that nature, or maybe after the call, even just sending that post-meeting email. If you've had 4 or 5 meetings in between, it's sometimes hard to remember exactly what's been said or what's happened. So we feel like meetings is a good place to start when looking at using tools. There's a few simple ways that you can look at. And what I can even do, if you want, is I can give you a bit of an understanding of what we do. And look, it's not going to be like a fully fledged demo here. I can just quickly show you how some of our tools work, essentially. And I think for those who may not have seen, there'll probably be varying levels of how into AI people are on this call. But for those people that maybe haven't seen how AI works, it'll really give you a bit of a flavor of what it can do and how much time you can save. So I think the tools are really, really impressive that we have, but there's many other tools out there which you can start looking into and start looking at getting involved in the business, to sort of start saving your time and energy, really. So what I can do, if you want, is I can actually share my screen, and I'll jump into Teams, and I'll just show you quickly some of the ways that you can use AI on decisions. And as I said, it's just to really give you a flavour of what AI can do for businesses and how it can start impacting your day in a nice, simple way. So we slot nicely into Teams for those who haven't seen decisions. So you can see on the side panel here, you have your Teams like you normally would do, and then decisions is just an app in here. So here I see all of my meetings that I have. You can see sort of some of my calls I've had today, some of my sort of upcoming calls that I have, and then you can also see past meetings there. So in here, you can easily jump into an agenda, right? So how agendas normally would work is that you would normally either create an agenda on Word or you'd create an agenda in Outlook, and it's quite offline. We run our agendas online. People can, if they want, share documents for agenda items, potentially attach links, and basically collaborate and run agendas that way. This actual agenda was actually created using AI. So this was an AI agenda. I won't show you that on this call, but definitely happy to show you on some other calls in the future. And just a couple of clicks of a button, I said, create me an agenda for a demo of AI, and it's created this for me. And for those that have decisions or have a free trial of decisions, that agenda assistant button is essentially how you do it. So you click into there, you'd put some prompts in, and that's essentially how you would use AI to create an agenda. Look, I'm not going to show that today. As I said, I'll just keep really, really targeted towards 2 things. So that's the recap, which is basically your post-meeting email. And then the second thing is the minutes. So actually writing a formal meeting minutes document for you using AI. Just for those who might be asking, what are some of those things along the top? So tasks is action trackers. So that links in with your planner, Excel, or you can even tick them off in here. Decisions is actually a really big use case for higher education, because decisions have to be recorded. There has to be audit trails. There's a lot of governance. So we can export all the decisions made in relation to a board or in relation to a senior leadership group call or whatever that may be. You can export them specific to those meetings, and that's quite a bit of a game changer often in higher education. In terms of saving time, that you can use this template that you've made here, this agenda that you've made, and then you can turn that into a meeting minutes, which is essentially a PowerPoint. So that's what the top panel says there for those that haven't seen it. But let's use the AI now to create a recap from a call, and we'll generate that now, and you'll sort of see and have a real flavour of what AI can do for businesses. So what it's going to ask you is where the different places of information it can find it from. So there's just an agenda here. The meeting transcript will automatically be pulled over from a Teams call. For this call, it's not a real call. So let me just quickly pick a fake transcript that we've got. And it's going to ask you, do you want to include actions, your meeting chat? And it's going to basically find all the information syncing across your Microsoft Teams. I'm going to be able to write this post-meeting email for you. So imagine you've got to the end of your day and you chaired an important meeting and you wanted to send out the notes, but you've had 3 meetings in between. This is a great example of how you could do it. So you just jump in the call, your transcript is there, your agenda is there, and you press generate recap. And that's now going to take that transcript. For this case, it was about a 50-minute call. And it's just going to write that post-meeting email for you. I think something that we have found is that some people think that the way AI written is sometimes unnatural, but I can actually send you this particular one if you want, and we can get this sent out to everybody so you can see how it is actually written. But you'll see it's written the key takeaways, the decisions that have been made, and the action items it's picked up, all using just the transcript. So there was no notes whatsoever on this particular call, just a transcript, and it has been able to make those actions for the call. We were recently speaking to a company, and they were sort of testing decisions, and they're evaluating decisions, and they wanted to see, and they did a bit of a test, and it was quite an interesting test really, to test the power of AI and to see, does it make sense actually using it or not. And everyone around the room had a pen and paper, and they say, can everyone just take actions for this call as we go through? They all dotted down actions, and then they ran the recap, and actions were picked up that nobody in the room had picked up. And from there, it made sense. Obviously, the AI is the way to go with done actions and things of that nature. Just one question that people often ask when they see this is, can you edit it? Is it, Jesus take the wheel with the AI? I think, look, as an end point for the future, it's probably going to get to a place where AI is going to do everything for you. But at this point in time, it's something that we definitely encourage you to tweak. So here you can edit, you can add decisions, and you can even add action items directly to people from here. Here's Jonathan Doe Smith, which is definitely a real person. And here, look, you can add the due date and everything like that. So that will sync in with Planner, that will sync in with your action tracker, and everything will then be easy to export and easy to manage. So I'll just share that out, so you can just send that out via email to whoever joined, and those actions will go into Planner, as I said. So that is your post-meeting email done. Obviously, I was speaking through that. It took a bit longer. Normally, it takes a minute or two to check everything and do that. The second thing I'm just going to quickly show you would be how the minutes work. There you see that's just come through to me. I don't know if you can see my notifications or not. So look, what I'm going to do is create the minutes now, and it's going to be similar to the recap. And this is, again, showcasing the power of what AI can do. But it's actually going to use the agenda that you've made and subrogate the way that the agenda is going to come out. So if I use AI minutes there, we should see a familiar look to the one we just saw. Something which are probably worth mentioning is it asks you, is it virtual, hybrid, or in person? So if you have a good recording device, it can definitely be for in-person calls as well. Again, the agenda, see it's pulled over some of those tasks and decisions we ran from the last one. You say who's there, who's absent. So what you're going to get, it might take a little bit longer for this one, but you'll get a much more formal version of a recap, and this is more of a minutes that you would generate. We have somebody who had a sort of 5-6 hour call the other day, and in there they had 50 or so agenda items. And what it managed to do is it managed to add in the words and what happened for each agenda item for all 50 of them. So although we've only got a short agenda here, it definitely works across bigger meetings and larger meetings. The thing obviously to think about as well is from this is just using the transcription. If you have somebody taking notes on the call, which you often will do, that will be able to be merged with the AI, and it will sort of take the best of both worlds and blend that together. Okay. So it takes a little bit longer than the recap, but not particularly a long time. You see, it's just sort of finishing up there. For example, that 4-hour meeting I mentioned, or 5-hour meeting, I think it was, that took about 4 minutes to generate everything. So this was about a 50-minute call, an hour call, when it's written in that amount of time. You might be thinking, this isn't my template, right? This isn't my logo and my branding, so we can definitely code it that way. So when you pull it through or come in with your company's layout, that would definitely be no problem at all. So in here then, so look, that has created your meeting minutes, right? And I think this is really just to showcase you the power of what AI can do, right? There's lots of great tools out there in the market. There's lots of different things that you should be looking at as organizations, but now you have a real flavor of how AI can help you. Some meeting minutes from feedback take sometimes days, right? And this can write it for you in a matter of minutes. And look, you're still going to go through and check it. You're still going to go and make sure and double check everything. You probably tweak a few things, just to be brutally honest, but that definitely saves a lot more time out of everybody's day. So that to be honest is most of it from our side in terms of that. I think there's a few other things I wanted to maybe cover off in terms of decisions quickly. There's also a case study I wanted to walk you through as well, very quickly, from one of the UK education organisations which are currently using decisions. But I think, look, just to sort of touch on decisions, we saw the Teams integration there, but we have integrations with all of them. It's a bit like a pop quiz here, but it's OneDrive, Teams, Outlook, Word, Planner, PowerPoint, OneNote. OneNote's a great tool that is used a little bit less than some of the others. Then you've got SharePoint, Azure, Edge, and Excel. There we go. I've got them all right. That was good. A lot of pressure with a lot of people on the call. But here you see the different tools that we help people to use using our particular AI tool. And it's basically to enhance those tools you pay for and you use every day, and to make them more efficient. Look, one of the things that they're really big for is making people use Teams. Teams is a fantastic tool. Funnily enough, Decisions has even been around longer than Teams. Teams has only been around for about 4 or 5 years now, and everything that we do is based off Teams permissions. That's really helpful when looking at when looking at the sort of the control and the storage and the access you get by Teams channel. That's how Decisions is worked on as well. In terms of the storage and how that all works, so everything is stored directly into your SharePoint. That's done automatically, so you haven't got to worry about sort of not saving something and something goes missing. So that's something that we find is really helpful, specifically for audit trails, specifically for governance. That's really some important things that we get feedback on that's very helpful. And in terms of the decision tracking, being able to track your decisions and track your actions and follow up on them and manage them well is often key for organizations as well. So there's some sort of high level overviews from our side. And the last one really, I think from us, is just about some of the meeting integrations. There's loads of things which we haven't shown on today's call, but here is an example of like how Decisions works into Teams. Like actually in a Teams call, you can see there that the agenda is going to be written out in there. The tasks are going to be written out in there. The decisions are going to be written out in there. And as you go, you can sort of use the tool to stay present in Teams calls and make sure you keep your meetings running smoothly. There's also a time tracker that we help with. And to be honest, that's probably my worst nightmare, because as you can tell, I do quite a lot of talking. But it keeps people on pace with the calls as they go through. Just to sort of wrap up then, really, here is an example of one organisation among many in the UK and globally in terms of education, where we work with them to basically help their day-to-day meetings and their day-to-day processes. So Harrow, Richmond and Uxbridge are big Decisions users, and Perry, who is the Chief of Staff, has said himself saves 200 hours on governance meetings every year. He's a really big user of Decisions. I know they've just partnered with MIT, so they're doing a lot of good things at HRUC. So we're really happy to be part of that journey. But this is just one of many use cases and many different organisations that we help when it comes to education. I know a lot of people are wanting to sort of speak to other education systems and other sort of schools and colleges and universities about how they're using the tool and how they're using AI. I know there's AI conferences that are happening. So if anyone ever wants to speak to other people in different universities, we can definitely put you in contact with them, because there's a lot of people from our side which we sort of link up and they speak to and make referrals and suggestions based on what works for them. So definitely something that we can help with if anyone wants to do that. And that's it. So from my side, that was everything. As I promised to give you some time back, I need to make sure I keep that promise. I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat there, Jose. I can stop sharing this now. Is there any questions in the chat there, Jose, that you wanted to cover off, perhaps?
Yeah, we have a few. So let's dive in. First one, we have, can this minutes function be used for meetings which happen in person?
Okay.
So
do you want to take that, Jose, or do you want me to take it?
I'll give you a second to catch your breath. You've been doing a lot of talking. So that minutes function can be done. The main thing is that you want to make sure that an audio source is picking up the conversation with Teams, have the transcript going, and then once you're at a laptop or even a mobile device, you'll be able to use the transcript that was created by Teams in order to help generate that meeting minutes function using AI or generally by inputting directly into Decisions.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, I think it's all about the recording device that you have. So those who have moved to a Teams intelligent speaker, if you haven't heard of that, I'd definitely look into those. Essentially, you can get it to recognize the voice from people in a room. And I guess a good use case would be, you have a board meeting. My laptop's on there. You have a board meeting and you have, I don't know, 10, 20 people in person. You can you can have that intelligent speaker in the room. It knows who said what, and then the transcription is actually better for Decisions to run the AI on, if that makes sense. So, but in long story short, yeah, there's definitely ways that we can help in terms of in-person meetings. And most people now have transitioned away from fully remote. There was a lot of people fully remote. Obviously, we had to be a few years ago. But now most board meetings and senior leadership meetings and a lot of meetings now are in person. So yeah, long story short, we definitely can do that.
All right, and let's do one more, just because I'm conscious of time. This other question is it better to limit who accesses AI tools or make them broadly available?
I think it depends on the tool, I would say. And look, it's probably something you should talk about as an organization, but you should probably think about what is the use of that tool, right? If it is, let's just make it really simple, going to save everybody an hour a day, right? Of course, it would make sense to roll that out, right? So I think you've probably got to look at the use case, what it's doing for those individuals, and then evaluate on that. But what we would normally look at is evaluating per job role. So you might have, in education, you'd have students, then you'd have teaching staff, then you'd have support staff, or sometimes called administration staff, people put different things. And then you might have committees, and you'd have trust, and you've had the board. And there's all those different sort of groups. You'd probably evaluate that per group and see where is the best ROI, and does it actually help those people as much as others. So that's probably what I would recommend on that one. But good question. Any others, Jose? Or is that most of them that we can cover off now?
I think those are the most important ones to cover off now. I'd recommend that if you have any additional questions, obviously reach out to Will or your local Decisions account manager. We'll be able to answer questions about AI or the platform on the whole.
Yeah, totally. And look, if anyone wants to know any more or even just have a catch up about it, look, we have a team who have literally created AI, right? They've created our products that we have, and they love speaking to people to understand what you would like to happen or your thoughts about in the market. So if you have any people or yourself who want to learn more or want to speak more, have suggestions and things of that nature, we are all ears. So I'll send a link to my calendar, and feel free just to book me in for some time, or drop me an email and we can arrange a call with the product team if there's anything else you want to cover off or any questions that anyone has. Okay, well, appreciate everybody's time. Thanks a lot for that. We'll wrap it up there and everyone can have 5 minutes back in their day. But thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cheers. Bye-bye.